You take care, Marty.
That's Grant Power, President, CEO of Nations.
Seam heads. Our Giants game day coverage begins now.
It's the mosaic.
So before gloves start popping,
diving, he makes the catch,
and bats start cracking,
it is gone.
We bring you the voice of Bay Area baseball for the past 29 years.
As I always say, baseball reflects what life is all about.
This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie.
That's what we do. We talk ball.
On KNBR, the sports leader.
And good morning, everybody. It's early Sunday morning, and it's great to be with you with more Talkin' Baseball at the conclusion of this July 4th weekend. There's been some holiday weekend, hasn't it? I hope the weather is good wherever you are and you're enjoying the baseball. Well, we've got more today. We've got Game 3 between the Giants and the Cleveland Guardians. These are two very similar teams after watching the first two games. The game Friday night, the Giants did their thing and got a victory. And yesterday, Cleveland did what they do best, and that is bring in that bullpen to shut things down. And they got a win yesterday. So these two teams are very similar. Cleveland, of course, in the American League Central. It's just the beginning of the Giants meeting the American League Central. As I said, you've got this game today with Cleveland. Then all of a sudden Minnesota is in next weekend. It's going to be very exciting as we get to see the famous Jose Miranda, who ended up with 12 straight hits. He tied the record of the great Walt Dropo, Rookie of the Year in the American League in 1950. Big guy, played for the Red Sox and the Tigers. And Pinky Higgins, who ended up being a manager of the Boston Red Sox, and not the greatest guy in the world. Pinky had some trouble with the integration of baseball. Remember that. And then you go back to Johnny Kling, a catcher for the old Chicago Cubs in 1902. So, but point is, we'll see Minnesota next weekend. That's going to be a good series. And Miranda, 12 straight hits. He had a walk in the middle of that, and then he popped up in the 13th attempt to get 13 straight hits. So he's tied the record of 12 straight. So meanwhile, that's a little aside on this Sunday morning of baseball. But yesterday, the game went the way we thought it would go, really. Logan Allen did his thing. And truthfully, the Giants had chances all over the place. And again, runners in scoring position for the Giants yesterday, 1 for 13, 3 for 10 on Friday night. So that's 4 for 23 in the series. That's the story again. And they go through these dips here with the offense. And here we go again. The pitching's got to save them. And if the pitching doesn't save them, they're going to have trouble scoring runs. In the series, now, Cleveland was 0 for 11 on Friday night. They're 2 for 4 yesterday. The Giants 1 for 13 yesterday. The two teams combined in this two-game series, 6 for 38 with runners in scoring position. A lot of that is good bullpen pitching. The bullpens for both teams have been outstanding, but a lot of it is basically these are the hitters. They're not great hitters. They're good hitters. They work the count. They can do a lot. But when push comes to shove, they've got to get the big hit. And yesterday for the Giants, it didn't happen. They had shots at it. And just looking at my scorecard, I mean, Soler starts it off with a bloop double down the right field line. And here comes Slater, Ramos, and Chapman. And ground ball to short, strikeout, pop up to short. The second inning, they get an error from the shortstop. Rukio doesn't make many, but he dropped one. So Matos is on, and Fitzgerald strikes out, and Casale gets the first of 3 walks for him. How about that for Casale? Now it's first and second, and Ahmed strikes out, and Wisely hits back to the box, and goodbye. Now they're 0 for 5 with runners in scoring position. So Allen's in trouble. You know, he's not a strikeout guy completely, but he got strikeouts yesterday. Third inning, Soler gets a walk, and Slater, a nice hit off the lefty. That's what he's supposed to do. Ramos strikes out. Chapman strikes out looking, and Matos strikes out. So all of a sudden, Logan Allen is looking like Bob Feller on the mound, or Herb Score, a couple of old Cleveland. They were Cleveland Indians in those days. So now, the first 3 innings, the Giants are 0 for 8 with runners in scoring position. Fourth inning, they don't do anything. In the fifth inning, they get him out. And this is the Giants' chance. Now, they're down 4-0 at this point for Kyle Harrison, and the guys did a great job of wrapping this up yesterday. Harrison had a terrible first inning. He was all over the place, and really he had no fastball command yesterday. So for Harrison, he ends up going 3 1/3, 4 hits, 4 runs, and he gave up the 4 runs, 3 in the first, 1 in the second, and that was it. And truthfully, for Cleveland, again, looking at my scorecard yesterday, they went wild in the first inning when Harrison couldn't find the plate, and they got a bunch of hits, and Kwan hit the home run in the second. And then how about this Noel, Janeski Noel? Man, this guy blasted one. That was a home run in the sixth. That was off of Luke Jackson, who's having nothing but trouble. Really, that is the one link in the bullpen that's been trouble. But the Giants were down 4-0, so they come back. It's 4-3. And here you go. The Soler gets a walk. Slater looks at a third strike, but Ramos a base hit. And Stephen Vogt, who wants to manage, and he maybe overmanages a little bit, but he went to his bullpen. And that bullpen, until you get to the end, until you get to Gaddis and Clase, they throw curveballs. Off speed, off speed, off speed. And that is that Greg Albernaz. He is the bench coach. He was with the Giants last year, and he loved off-speed stuff. He was the catching guru. So they bring in Barlow. He's throwing soft stuff, and he can't find the plate. And meanwhile, the Giants end up with 3 runs, including a double steal. Fitzgerald steals second, Chapman goes to the plate, and the Giants get a third run. So now it's 4-3. They're back in the game. But truthfully, after that, they got a double from Conforto, which drove in a run. That made it 5-4. And then Fitzgerald flew out, and Casale hit a bullet back to the mound. The pitcher knocked it down, and he was out. And that was in the 7th inning, and the Giants did nothing in the 8th and 9th when they brought the Heat in to finish it off for the Guardians. So 36,081 yesterday, but Giants had their chances. So, when you say, Logan Allen did this or that, yes, he was good. He was 4 1/3 for him, 9 strikeouts, and let's face it, 4 1/3 means 13 outs. And of the 13 outs, 9 was strikeouts. That's pretty good. But the Giants had their chances. They just didn't get their hits yesterday. So they lose at 5-4. Harrison goes to 4-4. The Cleveland pen, 4 2/3, 3 hits, 2 runs. The Giants pen, 4 2/3, 2 hits, 1 run given up. 9 relievers in the game yesterday. So, as I say, these teams are very, very similar, the way they play. Well, today, it is Hayden Birdsong getting the ball for the Giants. And, again, it's very similar to yesterday. Here's a young pitcher. I love Birdsong, and Woe clued us into Birdsong a month ago, how good this kid was. He's had 2 good starts, 9 2/3 innings, 10 hits, 5 runs, 3 homers, all solo shots, 5 walks, and 10 strikeouts. And as George Contos told us yesterday, he talks to himself on the mound. Remember Mark Fidrich? Anyone remember Mark Fidrich from the Tigers? The Bird. He was a phenomenon on Monday Night Baseball. Boy, and Howard Cosell and everyone, they went wild with this guy in the mid-'70s. He played for the Tigers, and he would talk to himself a lot on the mound. He would pat the mound down. He'd take them, I'm holding the baseball. He'd talk to the baseball. He was just the biggest character ever, and he was terrific. He loved to talk to the ball. Jake Peavy was another one who made a lot of noises. I'll ask Glenn Kuiper about that one. But Fidrich was one who did that. So Birdsong talks to the ball a little bit now. Fidrich used to pat the mound down. I mean, he was crazy, really. But he was terrific for the Tigers. Then he lost it. Bad arm. He lasted about 1.5 years, and then he died tragically. He was an auto mechanic, and the lift fell and crushed him. And that was the end of Mark Fidrich. But in the mid-'70s, he was fabulous. So the point is, Birdsong talks to the ball. He talks to himself. And I like it. I like the way he pitches. So lefties, 176 off him. Righties are 7 for 19. Have hit the 3 homers off him. No numbers really to talk about for him. Second time through the lineup, you get a little better look at him. 357. First time through, 250. He will be fine today. I think he will. He's got good stuff. He's got command. of his off-speed stuff. That's what I really like about him. He can throw 97, 98, and then he can drop a curve on you. And if he has the right umpire behind the plate today, he could have a good day. Carlos Carrasco goes for Cleveland today, and they have trouble with the starting rotation. There's no question about it. 37 years old. He's from Venezuela. He was a Cleveland Indian for years, and he had like lymphoma, leukemia. Something happened with him, and he beat it. And it was wonderful, and he came back. I think he came over from the Phillies. I think originally with the Phillies, and in a trade he went to Cleveland. But he had the health issues, and he beat it. It was really heroic what he did. He was with Cleveland, then he went to the Mets for a couple of years. Now he's back with Cleveland. He's 37. He's 3-6 on the year with a 5.21 earned run average. The WHIP is 1.36. He's one of these veterans. He knows how to pitch. It's his 272nd major league start. How about that? He's won 110 and lost 99. So this year, 15 games, 76 innings. That's what? Not quite 5, a little more than 5 a game. So we'll see bullpen there. 79 hits, 13 homers like Logan Allen. Homers given up. 9 are solo shots. 24 walks and 61 strikeouts, so he's still got something. But you can get on base against him, and the Giants' forte. And the Giants have their left-handed hitting lineup ready today, which is much, much better than the right-handed lineup. So first pitch, 18 for 48, so that's pretty good. That's over 360, so maybe there'll be a lot of first pitch swinging against Carrasco if he wants to get ahead. Second time through, 305 with 4 homers. Stolen bases, caught stealing, negligible. Looking up and down, people have seen him before. Bailey 0 for 2, Casale 1 for 10. He won't be in today. Chapman 1 for 8, Matos 1 for 2, Soler 1 for 7, Wade 1 for 4, and Yaz 2 for 6 with a homer. I'm starting to get a little worried about Soler. I mean, it's 90 games already, and you'd like to see a little better swing. I know he runs into some here and there, and he's got a bunch of doubles, but you'd really like to see a little bit better swings from him. There's just too many at-bats, so he's not giving them away, but he gets beat. And he's got to pull it together. They need him. They need him big time. All right, on the trip, the Giants are 3-2. So that's the matchup today. Birdsong and Carrasco, similar to yesterday. Young pitcher for the Giants. Does he have command, control? And then we've got Carrasco, the veteran, who's all over the place, who the Giants should get to some degree with the lineup they have today. They should get on base. The question is, get a hit when they need it, and that's the story for the Giants. On the road, they're 19-27, 7-11 in their last 18, but that includes the Birmingham trip. Against the American League, they're 8-12 now. They got to do better in this interleague. Against the Central, just 2 games, and as I said, they've got Minnesota, Detroit, the White Sox, Kansas City coming up. In July, they're 3-2 now, so that's what we have for them. In the wild card, the Giants lost a little ground yesterday. I always like to look at the loss column here. Atlanta is in the 4 spot. San Diego is in the 2nd spot. They lost yesterday to Arizona, another crazy game. We'll talk with Bruce Jenkins about that one. And St. Louis got walloped by Washington yesterday. They're in the 3rd spot with 42 losses. All right, then comes Arizona, 45 losses. The Mets, 44. Giants, 46. Pittsburgh, 46. Cincy, 47. Washington, 47. And the Cubs, 49. I think the Cubs are well out of it at this point. So that's what we have there. In the standings in the West, Padres lose yesterday. The Dodgers win. Ohtani, homer number 28 yesterday for him. And this kid Vargas they have in the outfield now, he's pretty good. He had a big home run, too. And the big news in L.A. yesterday, Will Smith, believe it or not, first time up, hit a home run. So 4 consecutive at-bats, home run for Will Smith. He's got 15 now. Wow, how about that? Roy Campanella, Piazza did it a couple of times, and Campy did it as well. The Dodgers with the win yesterday over Milwaukee and Padres losing to Arizona. They're 7.5 up on the Padres. Arizona jumps the Giants. They're now 10.5 back, and the Giants are 11 back. And the Giants have played 90 games now, 72 to go, every game now becomes important, and this whole wild card race is the story. But I think what we're going to talk about over the next couple of weeks and right up to the trade deadline will be the return of the pitchers and how the Giants are going to deal with it and whether they need some extra hitting in that outfield. And that may be parting with some people that you really like. And we'll see what Farhan does. But that's a lot to talk about today, which we can do. All right, it is Sunday. We have our Original Joe's contest going now. At Baseball Marty on Twitter. Just guess the score of the game, of today's game. And you can win dinner for two in Westlake or North Beach or West Portal. And then the big surprise we do, Raf does this, and he does it every week, Soto Mare, 552 Green Street in North Beach. They give a gift certificate for dinner for two, and Raf just randomly, and we get hundreds of entries. You know how many we get. Pick someone out, and you could get a big surprise. Even if you don't guess the score of the game right, that you may get dinner for two at Soto Mare, which is a lot of fun, and the food is great. So that we have that going, too. By the way, Mike Peckner, who we know was the winner at Soto Mare last week. Mike, you got to get in touch with Raf or me so we can get you your gift certificate to Soto Mare. Mike Peckner works at the ballpark and a longtime weatherman and meteorologist and a great guy. Great guy. So, Mike, if you're listening, get in touch with Raf. All right, that's our show Sunday morning. It's nice to be with you, 7 a.m. start. We've got a lot to talk about. Woe is going to be coming up next. The professor, Glenn Kuiper, will be with us. Bruce Jenkins, and then we have a really good author this morning, and I'll grab the book here for the stream and show it to you. It's the book is Leave While the Party's Good. Lee Kluck, K-L-U-C-K, was the one who did it. It's the story of Harry Dalton, and it really is a really good book when you think of baseball executives. And I know things are different today with the analytical people and all that, but he built the Orioles in the 60s through a farm system. He built the Angels in the 70s with free agency, and then he built the Brewers that won in the early 80s. And he's a very, very interesting story in baseball, how he did all that stuff. So that will be our guest in the last part of the show today. All right, we'll take a break. Coming up next is the Professor, Ron Wotus, right here, KNBR 680, 104.5, the sports leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Experience the epitome of luxury and craftsmanship with Inicio Windows and Doors, another exciting product line from BMD Manufacturing. Inicio Windows and Doors sets the standard in ultra-premium European design. Wow. For the most demanding American building standards. Available both in steel and aluminum, they are meticulously engineered to elevate your living space to new heights of sophistication. Learn more about Inicio Windows and Doors today. Discover the perfect blend of European beauty and style with unwavering durability and strength. Visit InicioWindows.com. INICIO Windows.com. Inicio Windows and Doors, where European design meets American craftsmanship. Fans, Bridge Bank delivers their clients full relationship banking, including treasury management solutions and global market services. Bridge Bank offers financing solutions to businesses for their working capital, equipment, and real estate needs. This is very important in today's world. Fred Voss is the Senior Managing Director of Bridge Bank's commercial lending efforts in Northern California. He has commercial banking teams in San Jose with Jesse Garcia, San Francisco, Oakland, Cheadle Cordova, and in Pleasanton. Bridge Bank, it's like banking at home. I can't say enough about it.
Time now to go to Sunday school with the professor.
Hey, Professor, take it easy, will you?
Giants coach Ron Wotus with Marty Laurie.
I didn't know you wanted to get involved with the discussion, Mr. Helper.
On your home of Giants baseball.
Good answer. Like the way you think.
KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Brought to you by River Islands, one of the country's top-selling master plan communities just across the Altamont in Lathrop. Where else can you live on a lake next door to a park or walking distance to your kid's new school? With 10 new neighborhoods, River Islands is the one place you can't afford to miss.
Well, it's great to have the professor with us, and that is Ron Wotus. Well, how are you this morning?
Marty, I'm doing well. How you doing today?
Pretty good. It's a great time for baseball. It is summertime, and the baseball stories are really starting to happen. And on Friday night, we had a lot of different stories. We could talk about some of them. But the main thing, well, it's the Giants. It's starting to come together for them, and they're starting to pitch, and they're starting to get that timely hit. And I like what I see so far. How do you feel?
I feel the same way, Marty. A lot of good things are happening. It seems like you're winning the close games. You're making the key pitch when you need to make the pitch. You're getting the hit when you need to hit. 2 nights ago, they had a great first inning against a very good pitcher in Beebe, they strung, 3 runs together in the first inning. They haven't done that very much. I just think there's a confidence growing within the club. And then Kyle Harrison back yesterday. Snell is in the wings. Cobb's in his rehab, and Robbie Ray's getting closer and closer. And you know how important it is, Marty, better than anybody, to play well going into the trading deadline. This is what can make a difference for the club and which way they go. So, I like the way the club's playing. I like the pitchers waiting in the wings, and that's a big boost, in your arm when you get some of these guys back. So I agree. Things are looking well right now.
Well, that's what the summer's all about. And, look, the bullpen's being used a lot. And maybe at the trade deadline, Farhan can add another bullpen piece. That wouldn't hurt. You can never have enough pitching. But the offense, and it starts with Elliot Ramos. Well, and look, we've talked about him for a couple of years, and that bat speed is still there. He's playing a decent center field. He really has lifted the ball club. This resurgence, I think, can be attributed to him.
I agree. Look, young players, when they come up and they play the way that he has, it's a big shot in the arm. He's done more than anybody expected him to do, tied, for the lead in home runs. They were able to move him to center field and settle that position down. He's playing every day, which tells you how well he's been playing. And then you look around, the whole club. Honestly, the young guys are a year older. The majority of them are contributing in big ways. Look at Brett Wisely, Jelly. The list goes on and on. So they're in a good place, and they have a lot more options when they get healthy with the pitching to improve that bullpen when these starters come back. So there's a lot of good options on their table, and you're right about Ramos. He's really been a player that helped this club move in the right direction.
The other one is Conforto. Friday night, in that first inning when Bybee was struggling and he threw a curveball, and boy, did he hang it. And Conforto, as they say, you hang it, we'll bang it. And he sure did. And he's done that a lot since he's come back from the injury that he had. He's got a lot of extra base hits, and they're meaningful hits. So I'm going to point out Conforto to you, too.
Yeah, Conforto, he's a veteran guy. He's been around, been a very good player in this league. He's been a streaky player, in his career, a streaky type hitter. When he gets hot, he's hot, and then he can cool off for a short period. But at the end of the day, his numbers always look pretty good. But the thing I like on what he's doing now, he seems to be in this run he's having right now, is he's not chasing out of the zone very much, and he's getting the ball up. It just looks like he's real calm at the plate. He's getting pitches that he can take a good whack at, and he's getting his hits. So he's looking good right now, and hitting can be contagious. You got Ramos swinging well, Conforto, Soler's adding, Chapman's been hot. So a lot of good things are happening right now, and they just need to maintain it, Marty, because as you know better than anybody, it's a long season, and you got to ride these good streaks out.
Yep, and you never have enough pitching. You never have enough runs. That's what I say. So let's see how this pitching comes back, and if they come back healthy, it's a big deal. Well, but you still have to play good baseball, and we love having the professor on a Sunday morning. A couple of things for me. One, in the Atlanta series, there was a great relay to the plate that got Olsen at the plate, and nobody was out, and Riley, of course, blasted another hit. This guy is something else, Austin Riley. But Conforto got to the ball, and the third base coach, and look, you and I have talked about this for 15 years. When there's nobody out, you don't really try to jam the guy in there. And they did, and great relay. But there's a nuanced part of this thing that the third base coach has to think about, and Olsen was out at the plate, and I thought it was a big part of the game. But let's talk about that play for the coach.
Yeah, for the coach, first of all, we all know if you get a guy thrown at home plate with nobody out, it's a mistake. It can't happen. It can happen with one out, and with two out, it happens the majority of the time because you're taking chances. One out's a tougher decision, but with nobody out, especially when you're losing, you have to be more cautious and hold that guy up. And I think what may have happened, you had Nick Ahmed, whose arm's not what it used to be. He's the shortstop. Typically, the shortstop goes out on that play, so maybe the third base coach had in his mind that, Nick was going to be the first guy out in the relay. But what Bo Mel and the Giants do, they send Chapman out on that ball. But we know what kind of arm he has. So he was the lead guy out on the relay. Conforto gave him a good throw, and his rocket arm nailed him at the plate. If it was Ahmed, maybe we wouldn't have got him at the plate. But still, as a coach, you need to be able to adjust mentally, and you need to be able to see who the relay guy is and who the ball is going to. But sometimes when you make your mind up that you got a chance to score him, it's hard to switch your brain to a different thought. And, that's possible what happened. But the other thing is he just tried to jam him in, as you said, and it wasn't a good play.
No, and plus they're having trouble scoring runs, and you like to get a run when you can. But the great point you make, and that's why you're the professor, is who was going to take that relay? If it's Ahmed, it's a different story. But Chapman gets it, and he throws a strike to the plate, and it was a big deal. Friday night in the Reds game, this was another one that you and I have talked about so often, the contact play. The Reds are down 5-4. They've got a speedy runner on third base, done. There's one out. And there's a ground ball to third, to the third baseman for Detroit. It's a little bit off to the third baseman's left. But the runner goes on contact. He's down by a run, and they throw him out at the plate. It's a ground ball to third. I know it's a tough one, but contact means you're going to go. But it's hit to third. You have to read it, I think, at some point.
Well, the thing about the contact play is you're gambling. You're going to do it with a guy that can really run and force the issue. And the runner at third has to get a great jump if you can have any chance at all. Look, he could get a great jump at third and be the fastest guy in the world, but if it's a rocket right at the infielder, he's probably going to be out. So that going in, but, you're figuring, hey, there's one out. Let's take a chance and roll the dice that he can beat the play because two-out hits are hard to come by. So, that's what you do on the contact play. So you're cheating. The guy at third is cheating so much as he's anticipating when he sees that guy swinging. He's anticipating a ball on the ground. He's almost breaking home, and sometimes they stutter step a step towards home if the guy swings a miss and then comes back to third. And your biggest fear is you're cheating too much where you can get picked off. But so that's the contact play. If it's hit right at the third baseman, you're dead. The other play that we give the option for the fielders is, we want you to read it, and that would be the one that you're talking about. Is right at the third baseman. Why are you going? Well, if he's reading the play, looking for a high chopper or a swinging bunt or a ball hit slowly up the middle where the infielder has to range a little bit, he's probably going to go. But on the contact play, it's basically we want you selling out, because if you don't get that great jump, you don't have a chance at all.
Well, the guy for the Reds was fast. I saw the replay. He was fast, and and he got a good jump too. But the third baseman made a heck of a throw to the plate. So it's sort of the way you described it. He was selling out, and he was fast. He just got thrown out at the plate. But that, as I say, that's baseball. That's the way it goes. All right, let's talk base running. Ramos on Friday night goes from second to third on a ground ball to short, and he's thrown out. This has happened within the game of baseball, not just the Giants. It's happened a lot. Well, what is going on? Is it just that the runners are not aware of it? They're not trained? What's happening here?
Well, it could be a couple of things. I mean, number one, you have to be in the moment in this game, and players on the field, they need to be like the third base coach, because I've told you over the years, I need to look at that scoreboard. I need to know, the inning, how many outs, who's coming up. They have a good pitcher on the mound, bad pitcher on the mound. Yeah, they have a good hitter coming up. All those decisions come into play when you're on the bases on whether you're aggressive or conservative, or the decision you make. And the bottom line is, when that ball's hit in front of you at second base, there's no way you go to third, because you're thrown out. So, I think sometimes it's just a lack of concentration and lack of preparation. And I think the other thing about this is, Marty, the whole industry is they're not running the bases anymore. And I frankly don't understand it. Base running is such an integral part of the game. It's a game of inches. It can win and lose you games. But, we kind of take for granted in the game today that guys can run the bases. And it's not so much that you need to practice during BP, that you go out and you circle the bases and, you get some reads at second base, and you go to first base and get some reads. But when you do that, you're getting used to the ballpark. How's the ball carrying in the outfield? You're keeping it in the forefront of your mind, and I think that's the biggest thing. Is if you're not thinking about it, you're not going to execute it. So guys hit every day, they take their ground balls, etc., but they're not thinking about base running enough. And if you don't have these things on your mind and go over it more routinely, I think there's going to be more mistakes on the bases, and I believe you see it an awful lot today, more than you have in the past.
Well, it can cost you a game, and I'll go back to Friday night. Friday night was a college course for me, watching baseball Friday night. In the Yankee game, Yankees in Boston. All right, so now it's early in the game. The Yankees have scored a couple of runs. It's one out. They've got first and third. Volpe is on third. He's the kid shortstop. And at first base is LeMahieu. Well, the hitter for the Yankees hits a ground ball down to first, and the Red Sox first baseman tags first. All right, now the force is off at second. Volpe jogs in from third. They throw to second. LeMahieu runs right into the tag, and he's tagged out before Volpe crosses the plate, and it costs the Yankees a run. And Volpe didn't hustle. Perfect example of base running.
Yeah, it is. You're exactly right. Look, LeMahieu shouldn't run into the tag. He should stop and get in a rundown, because he knows his guy on thirds, going home and trying to score. And Volpe should be running as hard as he can, to beat that, non-force out with LeMahieu. And you're exactly right. But you see this stuff time and time again. And I just really believe if you're not thinking about it in a routine, and, we used to run the bases all the time, the majority of my career. And I watch all these organizations come around and during BP, and they're not running the bases. And basically, you discuss a play like that the next day when the guy's coming through. You would remind them what to do. These things come up all the time, different situations, and it's much easier to coach when guys are on the bases and they come through and you can chat about it, opposed to run into a player's locker or run into 13 guys' locker to talk about the play. You just can't coach like that. So I like the routine of getting them on the bases a couple days every series, and things come up that you always can discuss, and they can get their reads and be thinking more about how to run the bases.
Boy, that's the way you win World Series. And, a few years ago, what we did, this was fun. I want to do this with you this morning. We brought back the names of players, and you commented on the kind of player they were at the time. And it made me think about it because we'd love to see the Giants win another World Series. Maybe with all this pitching and these young players, maybe just get in today's playoffs and you can do some damage, and maybe the Giants can get that done. So I'm thinking, do they have World Series kind of players? And I thought back to Freddie Sanchez. Let's talk Freddie Sanchez. World Series champion is a big deal in 2010 against the Rangers and Cliff Lee. Was Freddie Sanchez a World Series player before the World Series in your mind?
Well, he was pretty darn close if he wasn't. I mean, a batting champion. He was a tough out. He was a table setter. He got on base. He played very, very consistent, reliable second base, could turn the double play, made all the plays. So, yeah, I mean, he was, because, I mean, you need all types of players for a World Series player, right? Some of them aren't, the Buster Posies or the All-Stars or the Ohtanis. You need the complementary players, and then you need the very, very good players. And, there's a balance that goes with that. But Freddie Sanchez is a good name. He was a winning player. He gave his all every single day. I've never seen him not hustle, and he cared about winning. But the skills were there. I mean, this guy could flat out hit and get on base, and he did a great job for the Pirates and certainly for us.
Well, I'll compare him to Chapman. I think you just described Chapman, and we've talked about this from the first day they signed him, that he's that kind of player.
Yes, you're right, Marty. He really is. And, it doesn't matter at the end of the day if he drives in 100 runs or he drives in 80 runs. What he brings to the table is a championship player. His attitude, he leads by example. He's not afraid to speak up. Look, this game is tough. It's not easy, to hit 300. It's not easy to drive in 100 runs. And, you play every day. You're going to have your ups and downs. But one thing's consistent with these championship guys is their approach and their desire to win. And you put his skills together with that. I mean, my goodness, nobody plays a better third base. And, this guy could have 25 home runs when the year's over. I mean, a little past the halfway point. He's got 12 home runs. He's got 42 RBIs. I mean, he could have 100 RBIs and 25 home runs or more. So he's a winning player. There's no doubt in my mind.
I like it. All right. Webb, the All-Star pitchers are going to be named today. For me, it's Logan Webb. I'd put him on there ahead of many, many pitchers in the National League. He pitched a great game against Atlanta. Had a little trouble in the first inning, then settled down. What about Webb? World Series kind of player?
Oh, shoot. Yes, absolutely. I mean, we saw it, what he did last year and this year, what he's doing. And the thing I love about him is his durability. This guy goes out and he pitches, and not only is he durable, he's one of the few guys that goes 7 innings in a game or 8 innings. That's non-existent almost in today's game. The heart and soul of the pitching staff and the team, another guy that cares. You see his emotions sometimes on his sleeve when he's out there on the mound, when he gets disgusted with himself if he doesn't cover first base or something. But, he's our number one, and he's that quality player for a reason, because he cares. He wants to take on that role. And, he'd be right there at the top of the rotation if this club gets to the World Series.
Boy, we got so much to talk about. The professor with us on Sunday morning. We haven't talked to him for a couple of weeks, so there's a lot to catch up with. Also going to Texas for the Futures game is Eldridge, the big first baseman. And, Will, you've said it when you saw him in San Jose. You said this kid is special. And, look, he's just out of high school, and he's going to the Futures game.
Yep, real happy for him. He's learning a new position at first base. I texted him the other day and congratulated him, and he is very excited about it. He's feeling good about himself, and that's what you want. He's having a good year there in San Jose. I mean, not an easy league for a high schooler just to jump into. He's hitting home runs. He's learning first base. And he says he's feeling really, really good at first base. And it's not easy to play a new position and also hit. But the tools are there, as we like to say. You know, he needs a lot more games played, obviously, to get to the major leagues. But he's off to a good start, and everybody recognizes his talent when he's with his picks for the Futures game.
I can't wait to see him play. Well, you and I, tomorrow, Monday, we will be up at the Priest Ranch Wine Tasting Room from 5:30 to 7:30, talking baseball just as we do it, and also talking about Orlando Cepeda and Willie Mays. And I know the memorial is happening at the ballpark, but fans, if you can't get there, Will and I are going to give you our feelings about the two great icons who passed in the last couple of weeks. So priestranchwines.com, check it out if you need a ticket. There, I know there's only a few left. But, well, I'm looking forward to Monday night. I'm glad we can talk about the two great Giants.
Yeah, so am I, Marty. You know, Orlando, you know, they had his services a couple of days over here in the East Bay, and I was fortunate enough that I was able to get over there for it. Great Hall of Famer, but you know, when you go to these memorials, you hear more about the person, and that's what's always touching. You know, he touched so many people, and I'm sure you're going to hear the same thing about Willie Mays on Monday as well. And you know, I had the fortunate situation to be doing television, NBC, the night that Willie passed, and we spent a good 2 hours on the air having guests on from all around the country talking about Willie and two icons with the Giants, but even better people. You know, you don't find anybody that has a bad word to say about either of them, and they touched so many lives in so many different ways, just being a friend, and then also, you know, on the baseball side. So I'm excited to have the opportunity to talk about those two individuals.
Yeah, I'm glad that we could do it. So that is Monday, 5:30 to 7:30. Also, Colleen from River Islands will be there. Susan from River Islands will be there. Ramon will be there, and we could talk some River Islands as well and what's going on over there. So, well, we've got a lot to do the next couple of days. So have a great Sunday. And I think we've got a lot to talk about. I got things on my list here. Well, one is Birdsong. I want to talk about him. We'll see how he does today. I know you've been singing his praises a lot. And the other one is, what do you do when you get a ball play? You don't have to answer it now. Who doesn't like to play day games? He likes to sleep late. You ever run into that? We'll talk about that one on Monday. On Monday night.
Okay.
Ron Washington had that problem. And, you know, Wash, he had a very interesting solution to it. So a lot more coming up. So we'll have a great Sunday, and we'll talk to you Monday night up at Priest Ranch Wines in Yountville.
Sounds good, Marty. I love the tease, and I have some good stories about guys sleeping as well, so I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Have a good Sunday. Thanks, Will.
You too, Marty. Take care.
All right. More coming up. KNBR 680, 104.5, the sports leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Marty Lurie here, reporting from River Islands in Lathrop, Northern California's best-selling master plan community. The breaking news from River Islands is the announcement that Del Webb, the best-known name in active adult living, is coming to River Islands this fall. It's been years since Del Webb has offered a new community in Northern California, and people are already signing up for their interest list. With a September opening in view, Del Webb is building 3 different model complexes for their 9 home designs. All of the homes are single-story, and 2- and 3-bedroom plans will be available. The community, it'll have its own lake and an amenity center with sport courts, a pool, club rooms, and a fitness center. Del Webb will be joining the River Islands roster of fine home builders that are creating all new neighborhoods near the San Joaquin River, alongside a lake or close to parks or trails. You can start your tour now at riverislands.com. Isn't it time for you to discover the islands? This one sure is for me.
Prepping you for today's orange and black ball game, we now take you back to Talkin' Baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us on this early Sunday morning as the Giants try to win another series. We bring in our dear friend, I love having him on every Sunday, and that is Glenn Kuiper. Glenn, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Marty. How you doing?
Pretty good. It's a little early for Raph and I, but, we're troopers. This is what we have to do. So, well, you've had some of these East Coast games, where you've had to get up early.
Yeah, it's never easy. Even when you're on the road, in an East Coast city, it is just, you just feel like you're getting up earlier than you really are. But let's hope it's worth it today and the Giants get out of Cleveland with a series win. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, you gave a good scouting report on Cleveland when we talked last week. These two teams are very similar. The way they use the bullpen, the way they hit or don't hit, and the way they rely on 2 or 3 of the big hitters to get the job done. Giants, Cleveland, very similar, the way I see it.
Yeah, and maybe not. It seems like the Guardians is not always a real flashy team, but they just know how to win. They've been winning for a long time. Unfortunately, they haven't won a World Series in a long time, but I find them to be just an entertaining team, not because they're loaded with star players, but just because they just kind of play the game the right way. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They move around on the bases, and I like that a lot. And we're starting to actually, you're right, we're starting to see that
that style of play a little bit more lately from the Giants, and that's why they're winning lately.
Yeah, I like what I see with the Giants, and they have a shot today to win another series, which is what you try to do. I thought Logan Allen, he struck out a lot yesterday, and he really had good command. The finesse guys, when they have it, they're tough. When they don't have it, you can knock them all over the place. But frankly, the Giants had a lot of shots yesterday to get into that game and break that game open. They just didn't get it done.
Absolutely. I mean, and he had the off-speed stuff working, and he had a little help from the umpire. I thought there were some calls that went his way, but he was really good. You got to give him some credit. But I like the fact that the Giants, even though they lost yesterday, they continue to put pressure on. If you put enough guys on base at some point, something's going to happen. And listen, when it's all said and done, Marty, they scored 4 runs. You can win a lot of games scoring 4 runs. I think the only thing, as well as they played on this road trip, I think the only thing that bothers me is the strikeouts. And you mentioned it yesterday, but Marty, they struck out 14 times yesterday. They also struck out 14 times on Friday. That's 28 strikeouts in 2 games, which is, that is extraordinarily high. And even in Atlanta, Marty, in the 3 games there, 31 strikeouts in 3 games. So on this road trip, they've struck out 59 times in 5 games. That's way, way too much. Now they're 3-2 on the trip, but it seems like that's the one thing that jumps out from a negative standpoint is man, oh man, that's a lot of strikeouts. And you have to put the ball in play. And in some certain instances in a game, it's even more important to put the ball in play. So that's been a little bit of an issue, I think, on this road trip. But they've managed to kind of play around that by doing a lot of other things pretty good.
Yeah, 4 for 23 with runners in scoring position. That's we've gone through this before. And, you want to get out of that. But you said something last week, which now, and I talked to Will about it, and we're going to do this on our show all the time, and that is look for that one defensive play that changes the game. And you're so right about it. And for me, yesterday, it was a play the pitcher made, and he threw the ball to first, and Naylor dug it out. That ball gets past Naylor, and it's a whole different game. That to me, that was the game right there.
Yeah, that's right. And Ramirez made a nice play at third that would have driven a run. So I've always felt that way, and I'm glad that I got you kind of looking at the game that way too, because it really, really does jump out. And many, many games are decided, by maybe one defensive mistake. And luckily for the Giants, they have not made a lot of defensive mistakes lately. They've been playing pretty good defense. But so when you talked to the professor, did he agree with me on that?
Oh yeah,
about how
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah,
that's important. I want the professor to agree with me.
No, he's all over it. And he brought up another good point this morning, and that was on the relay. You'll appreciate this. They got Olsen at the plate. They tried to get him in there, and nobody out in the first inning. That's the last thing you want to do is get someone thrown out at the plate. This is Atlanta. That Chapman gets the relays from the left fielder, not Ahmed. And I didn't realize that, and Will pointed that out today. I did not realize that.
And they did that with the Athletics as well when Chapman was there, and it's just taking advantage of the best arm. So, yeah, they want him to have the baseball in his hand. I mean, gosh, any relay they could, but certainly the ball down in the corner. So if you look at that play, Marty, and we sat in the dugout in spring training, and they work on this stuff, and that's what's so great about spring training is you sit there and you watch them, go through these things. But Chapman goes out as far as he needs to. He knows where to be and how far he wants to be out. But the second baseman, Wisely, was the guy who went over to cover third, and the ball almost hit Wisely in the head. If you watch that replay, he had to duck out of it. So yeah, it's something you may not look at unless you see the replay and you go, oh, wait. But Chapman goes out, Wisely covers third, which I thought was interesting as well. But, yeah, you have to have Chapman out there. And Ahmed's arm is not great, so it's really kind of a no-brainer. But again, the A's did that with Chapman as well, and they did that when Marcus Semien was a shortstop, and Marcus is pretty darn good. So, and it worked. And that's what, we're kind of saying too, Marty, about the defense has been much better lately, and I think that's been a big difference. Not only they've only made 3 errors in the last 15 games, so just they're making fewer errors, but they're making more defensive plays. And that was a perfect example. And, Marty, too, the running game has slowed down a little bit by the opposition. So all those little things, I think, have come into play, and why they are definitely starting to play better, tighter baseball, and I think that's a great sign.
Yeah, good point. Yeah, because I should mention that Casale and Bailey threw people out in this series, and they threw darts to second too. That was they really made nice plays there. Carrasco today, and I talked about. Remember, Glenn, he had a lot of physical issues that he overcame, and now he's back. What do you know about Carrasco?
Well, there was a time when he was really, really good. Remember, the Guardians had Carrasco and Danny Salazar, and they could throw out some guys. And then he went to the Mets, and that did not go great. So I mean, he's a veteran. Listen, is this a guy that you should be able to get to, and you should be able to do something with? Yeah, I do think so. And so I got a decent feeling about today, and I'm looking forward to seeing Birdsong because he's kind of fun to watch. But there's no reason why they can't. The way they're playing, the way the Giants are playing right now, they should be able to get to Carrasco and get out of there with a series win, a road trip win, and then come home, Marty, and get back to 500. That's what I need this team to do. So,
well, we got Toronto. We haven't talked to yet. You and I could do a whole show on Toronto and Minnesota too, and we got that coming up. But let's stick with Cleveland just a little bit. I remember when Ray Fosse used to go in, and Bob Feller would be there, and he'd have him on. There's a lot of Cleveland history that we in the Bay Area enjoyed when you guys went to Cleveland. Well,
you know what, Marty? I think sometimes people used to get tired of Ray and I talking about how great Cleveland was, but we had a lot of fun with it. But really, it was just memories. I mean, obviously Ray, played there, was super popular there. I have a huge soft spot for Cleveland. I mean, they were my team growing up for obvious reasons. I mean, I love them. I mean, Dennis Eckersley and just names that most people would be like, oh yeah, I kind of remember him. Well, these were the guys that I look up to, right? I mean. And so I do have very fond memories of going there as a kid. Every summer, when Dwayne got there in '74, stayed in the big league starting in '75. But every summer that he was there, I would fly there by myself. So 1975, I'm 12 years old, but I would fly there by myself, stay with Dwayne for a whole week. Wow. So you think about that, Marty, as a kid. You're 12, 13, 14 years old, maybe just getting to high school, and you're flying on an airplane. You're going to see your brother play, and you're sitting in the stands, and you're working out before the game with the team, and then you sit in the stands and you watch your brother play, and then you go down to the locker room after the. I mean, it was the greatest week of my year every summer for those reasons, So yeah, it may sound hokey, it may sound corny to some people, but it very much is a place that I have wonderful memories just because of the time we spent there. As family, we went there a lot to see Dwayne play, and so yeah, it does. I have an extreme fondness for Cleveland, and for the uniform and everything about it. And people can sometimes tease me about it, but that when you grow up that way, and you're watching your older brother play, and he's the captain of the team, that's something that stays with you. That doesn't go away. The fondness and the memories you have for that kind of stuff. And it was great, and I love Cleveland.
Yeah, come on, man. It's a beautiful part of baseball, a beautiful story. Now, you're 12 years old. Did you cramp his style? Come on, this is Dwayne we're talking about.
Well, you know what? I don't know. He was single at the time, and he was pretty popular in Cleveland. I think he had some fun in Cleveland. If you really want me to be honest,
he had a nickname.
But I don't think I cramped his style. I do remember him taking me to some at that point. This is the '70s. So some discotheques when I was probably underage, but I can remember sitting in places at a very young age but he was pretty well insulated, pretty well protected there in Cleveland, believe me. So again, memories that we laugh about him now, but I don't think I cramped his style. You'll have to ask him that, Marty, next time you see him.
Yeah, come on, the guy's nickname was Smooth for a reason.
Yeah. Maybe I did cramp his style. I don't know.
I'm sure. Believe me, I'm sure you did. You spent a lot of time. Hey, here's $50. Go to the movies. You know.
Yeah, that's right. Give me a couple hours, right?
Really? All right, good. Well, it's good to have you on as always. This Cleveland thing, Carrasco. You're right. They should hit him today. I like the left-handed lineup that they put out there, and I said it last week. Or you can comment on this one. I like Wade being in the lineup. I like Conforto being in the lineup. I don't care who's pitching.
Yeah, I'm with you. Wade. I think you just need to be careful with him a little bit with the hamstring. Those things are tricky, but he looks fine. He's so important to the lineup. And Conforto's starting to hit a little bit. Matos is not really hitting a lot. That's a little bit of a concern. But yeah, I do think when they have the left-handed hitters in there, I do think it's a better lineup. And they just got to keep grinding. They're doing a really good job, Marty, grinding. Good at bats.
Yeah, they are.
Even though a lot of strikeouts, but they're grinding deep into at bats. I think that has been better. We saw that maybe start on the last homestand. So they're doing a lot of things good right now, Marty, and I think they're starting to feel confident. And I think the fact that this pitching staff is getting whole again, I think that's going to be a boost for them confidence-wise. You can look at this upcoming homestand, Marty, and there's a starting pitcher lined up for every day. Well, when was the last time we could say that, right?
Yeah. So, this is going to be interesting to see how they deal with it.
I think that's a big deal for this team, knowing that, hey, now we're starting to get our guys back. We're starting to play better, that combination. And that's why I do. I think, the final 72 games, I think the Giants are going to play well. Let's just hope it's enough to get in.
Yeah, I think it will be. Oh, this is good. Great to talk to you. I really enjoy these Sunday mornings with you. So have a good day, and we'll catch up next week.
Thanks, Marty. See you, man.
All right, be well. All right, Glenn Kuiper. All right, more coming up. Bruce Jenkins next, right here on the Sports Leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the Sports Leader.
It's been a pleasure working with Rick Robin this year. Rick Robin, ROBBEN, NapaConstruction.com. Rick, the last time you were on with us, you told us about kitchen and bath remodeling, but there's a lot more going on up in your area.
Yes, there is. ADUs, auxiliary dwelling units, which are nose-to drain units. We can do your existing garage, attached garage, even building a new unit in the back. And so what we do is come out, bring our architect out there. Such a great thing. No sewer hookup fees, no water hookup fees. So that's what we do.
Rick, how does one start the process with you? How does one get in touch with you?
Well, you call Tammy, 707-332-7575, 7 days a week.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Rick, the thing I like about this, no problem for me. You come out with the plans, the permits, everything is in-house, no fees, and you get a new unit that you can rent out and get money back on your investment right away. I like it, Rick.
Thanks, Marty. Love talking to you.
Rick Robin, ConstructionNapa.com. Vance Gene Bogano checked in from the Tides up in Bodega Bay, and he said that while it's been hot inland, we know that, temperatures have been quite comfortable out on the coast, ranging from the mid-60s into the low 70s. At the Tides restaurant, patrons have a wide variety of choices, ranging from delicious seafood salads and pastas to the ever-popular fried calamari and grilled fish. If you're planning a trip to the beach, the Tides Fish Market offers a great selection of food and beverage items, perfect for picnicking, while across the hall, just go into the gift shop. They have whatever apparel you need, from swimsuits to beach towels, anything you might need for that excursion. And if you're looking to stay for a day or two just across the Highway 1, the Inn at the Tides with its large, comfortable rooms, all with a view of the bay, is waiting for you. So if you're looking to get away and escape the heat, you need to look no further than the Tides Wharf and the Inn at the Tides in scenic Bodega Bay.
Look through the window of the original Joe's on North Beach and you'll see two guys at the counter talking ball. Time for you to listen in to their conversation. Marty Laurie and the SF Chronicles' Bruce Jenkins are looking through the window of baseball. Sponsored by Original Joe's of North Beach and Westlake on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
All right, great to have you back with us on this Sunday morning. Really happy to be here and bring in Bruce Jenkins. Bruce, good morning. Thanks for being up with us.
No problem, Marty. How are you?
Good, good. You know, it's one of those. Raph gets there about 6 o'clock, and I'm up at 4:30. And as we say, that's baseball on the East Coast. That's what we have to. That's what we have to deal with. But look, Giants and I call them the Giants and the Guardians. I think they're very similar with the way they go to the bullpen, runners in scoring position, the whole thing. These are two teams that fight it. It's like a middleweight boxing match, not heavyweights, but middleweight boxing match.
It's a good series. I think Cleveland's looked a little more, I think, ordinary than the standings would show. They're a good club, and the Giants, as we've said for weeks now, when they get up against a good team, they hang in there good. It was a shame, Kyle Harrison was a little rough yesterday coming back. He didn't have a rehab start. Maybe he should have. Who knows? That's not for me to say. But he's down. He's got the bases loaded with nobody out right off the bat, and down 3 runs, and that was tough. Stephen Kwan took him deep, but it's good ball with these teams, and they are pretty even. And I like it.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens today. Carrasco, Bruce, he had a lot of medical problems that he overcame, and then he ended up with the Mets. He's back here. And then on the other side, we have Birdsong, so sort of a little repeat of yesterday. A pitcher for Cleveland, you should get on base, but you need to get big hits at some point. You got to have those runners in scoring position moved around.
Well, I mean, right off the bat, Soler leads off the game with a double, and, Mr. Off-Field Slater grounds out to short. And later he strikes out twice and hitting .202. I don't know. The fascination with Slater is really getting old, and the fans know it too. But the situational hitting wasn't great. One really nice thing, and Dave Fleming called it perfectly. They had runners in first and third. And Fitzgerald was the guy at first, and Fleming said this would be a good time to maybe draw a throw with Fitzgerald breaking a threat to steal, and he did break, and they did get a throw home, and Chapman scored. It was a nice little moment out there, but then you got John Kenzie Noel.
How about that guy?
Yeah, that's a guy. I mean, you get used to the Cleveland lineup. You're seeing these names day after day, and all of a sudden this guy shows up. 6'5" and 250 out of the Dominican. He's got a history of power in the minor leagues, and he just smokes one out. I love the way he holds the bat. He holds the bat to where there's very little movement from the stance to the swing. He doesn't drape it over his shoulder or do the Corbin Carroll thing, or he's very basic. And I like to see that. I mean, everybody's got their own stance, and there's no one way to do it, obviously, but I like the way he does it.
Oh, that was fun watching him, and he's a very exuberant guy, too.
Yeah,
he brings something to the table. Yeah. They need someone like that. It's an interesting team. I mean, Ramirez, good defender. He's a great hitter. Hasn't done much in this series so far, and they've sort of held him down. But Kwan showed me something yesterday. He's a tough out. Tough to strike out. The umpire is the one who'll strike him out by the crazy calls they make. But boy, he hit a long home run yesterday. That's 9 home runs for Stephen Kwan.
Yeah, I mean, when he swings and misses, everybody in the Cleveland dugouts go, "Did you see that? That actually happened." He's back in the league leading qualifiers now. All of a sudden, boom! There he is at 365, leading the league in hitting by like 40 plus points. But I really like him. Out of Oregon State, he was on their national championship team. He was up there with Rutschman and a couple other guys that are in the bigs. They're all on that team, and he's a local kid, Stephen Kwan. So, yeah, he's great. He's the orchestrator and good guy to have.
Well, it's a good game for the Giants today. They turned over to Birdsong. I don't know where it's going to put him when everyone comes back. He probably goes out. Probably Keaton Wynn goes out as well. As they say on TV, if you have options, the Giants will use them. So for Birdsong, it's just another start before everyone starts coming back, I think. Yeah, but so we'll see what he brings to the table today. But I like what I see from Birdsong.
Yeah, and it is kind of a revolving door. I mean, Spencer Bivens showed him a lot. He's gone away. I'm sure he'll be back. But if it doesn't go well for Birdsong today, maybe he'll go back down. But I like him. I like his stuff. Just the way he conducts himself out there. And definitely has earned this start. It's a big one, and they want to win the series.
Well, crazy things, and I love talking baseball with you on a Sunday morning. First of all, how's the Triple Crown looking? What do you think about Ohtani for the Triple Crown?
Well, Arias is going to win the batting title. They're only 1 point apart. I mean, I would think that would be my guess. But Ohtani's leading the league in hitting. All right, so start there. Now he's leading in homers by 5. He's got 28. He hit an incredible bomb yesterday in a big moment. He's got a 5-game lead over Ozuna there. And in the RBIs, he's leading over Ozuna's got the lead there. He's 7 behind Ozuna. But Ozuna's catchable. I mean, Ohtani's capable of anything. So, and Bohm is in there with 70. So, geez. I mean,
pretty good, isn't it?
But if he were to do that, I mean, all the stuff that he's done is so special. That would just be mind-blowing. Now he's Mickey Mantle,
Yeah, and Ozuna will slow down. Ohtani will not slow down, and that's what's going to happen there. But the Dodgers got a big win last night, and Will Smith, you're talking again, Roy Campanella, people like that. Will Smith, first at bat, hits another home run. Bruce, the guy hit homers in 4 consecutive at bats. Come on.
Yeah, just tremendous. I mean, there's so much talk about Freeman and Ohtani. That's kind of where where the lightning is going to come from, and Betts when he comes back, and Teoscar and Pace, but Will Smith is just a steady guy. He'll be on the All-Star team, and this is his. He's peaking right now. Like I say, 4 at bats, 4 homers, and just crazy stuff. The Dodgers. Paxton gave him a pretty good innings. But this is what the Dodgers do. Yelich homered off Phillips to tie the game. So now all of a sudden, boom, Vargas and Ohtani homer off Brian Hudson, and the Dodgers win it. And now who pitches today? Justin Robleski is pitching for the Dodgers today. Who the heck is that? He's up from AAA, and it shows you the state of their rotation. I mean, you hear about all these guys, Stone and Miller and whoever's coming in there, and all of a sudden this guy shows up.
No, you would think it's Sunday, Dodgers and Brewers here. Teddy Higuera would be pitching against Fernando today.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead, we've got Jason Robleski, who's made 2 starts at AAA. He's an 11th round pick at 2021. He's 23. He's going today against the great Dallas Keuchel. Come on.
Yeah, well, that's so baseball, isn't it? I mean, here you got two division leaders. You never heard of either one of the guys.
No, and that's what's happened to pitching. Honestly, that's why the more pitching, that's what I'd say in the Giants, you never have enough runs and you never have enough pitching. That's how I feel about it. So, all right, that's that. How about Arizona and San Diego, Bruce? I'm telling you, the West, I tell you this, I just think it's going to go on all summer like this. Another crazy game, Arizona and San Diego.
Yeah, just the way they went back and forth at each other is the way it's going to be in the standings, I think. Between the Giants and these two teams, it's a terrific load of talent and drama below the Dodgers, but a really good win for Arizona. They lost fought in the early on. Arias hit a shot off of his foot. I'm not sure how bad it is, but the Padres really came on strong. A great moment from Cronenworth, the Padres second baseman.
Yep.
He saw the tight game. He saw the third baseman playing back at second and third. And this is a guy who he's an RBI machine, but all of a sudden he drops a perfect bunt single. Now it's 4-3 Arizona leading, and then Donovan Solano, ex-Giant, leads off with a double. Kim doubles to tie it, and here we go. And then they get into the 10th, and of course, Christian Walker, who's the hottest hitter in the league, outside of Will Smith, I guess. 2-run single and real good win for Arizona.
Yeah, and then come on, San Diego doesn't go away. First of all, again, you got 47,000 people. The place is going nuts. They load the bases.
Yeah.
And they can get back in the game. They load the bases and they go 3 out. Pierce
well,
Johnson's...
yeah. I mean, you're expecting them to bring down the house right then, because those guys, those are keepers. That lineup, the 5 of the first 6 guys have good batting averages over 270, mostly way over 270, and they just But again, the Arizona bullpen bailed them out there.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, Bryce Johnson strikes out, Kim strikes out, and Higashioka flies out, and that's the end of it. And Solano's in the middle of that with another double. So
yeah.
I love it. I just think the West is going to be really, really a good story. So we'll see. The Yankees finally get a win yesterday, but the story again, and here we go, another rookie that we never heard of, Ben Rice. First Yankee rookie ever. Hit 3 homers in a game. And he grew up in the East Coast. I love this part of the story. And he was a big Yankee fan. He signed the pesky pole when he was a kid and said the Yankees rule. How about that?
Yeah, he's an Ivy Leaguer. He went to Dartmouth as a catcher. He was playing first base yesterday. But, 12th round pick is like this guy could just easily just disappear and become an insurance salesman. But all of a sudden, he's playing against the Red Sox, a team of his youth, and the Yanks had lost 14 out of 18. I mean, good grief, they needed something. I'm sure they didn't expect this, but after the 3rd homer, everybody in the dugouts going, "Hey, get out there! They want you to do a curtain call." And he's so new to the bigs, he didn't know how to get past the railing. He had to go all the way to the end of the dugout to find a way to get up there to do the curtain call. But great stuff. I mean, Rizzo's out, and this guy's playing first base, and it certainly doesn't save the Yankees. It wasn't that great of a start for Garrett Cole, who couldn't get through the 5th, but it was a really nice story that they needed, like, in the worst way. Ben Rice.
Yeah, and the Red Sox are pretty good. This Rafael Devers, he's a player.
Oh, yeah.
Does he get enough play, enough publicity? I mean, he got his 1,000th hit. He'll be an all-star, I'm sure. What a player he is.
Yeah, he's been, since he came up, you could just tell this guy's going to rake. I don't think he's regarded among the superstars of the game. Maybe he gets a little short shrift, but you look at his numbers, and he will be in the All-Star game, which will be great. But he's a really, really good left-handed hitter, and for a while he was one of the few guys you even recognized in the Red Sox lineup. But now they've got Duran coming up, and they do score a lot of runs, and they're pretty exciting club.
Yeah, when they played the Giants, I thought they played pretty well, and they haven't gone away. And again, we're in July. 90 games are down, and you kind of, if you're still hanging around, you got to be taken seriously. And this could be one of those Red Sox years that they just keep hanging in there, and maybe they'll catch the Yankees. But the story I liked this morning was Joey Cora, the manager of the Red Sox. He goes for a run every morning. Did you hear this one?
No.
And he goes to Central Park, and he gets lost. He doesn't know where he is. He had to call an Uber to take him back to the hotel. Come on.
You can get lost in there. There's some twists and turns, and usually if you're a little inebriated late at night. But that is very funny. He didn't have a route planned out. You get off the route, and oh my God, what may happen?
Yeah, he didn't know where he was.
Yeah.
So they have to get an Uber to get him back to the hotel. So that I think the Red Sox are worth watching. I really do.
Sure.
So we'll see how that plays out. That Heel is pitching today for the Yankees. So we'll see what happens there. Washington. James Wood, here he is another good young. This is where the Giants, they have their Ramos. They need more. James Wood. What a trade this was. Soto to San Diego. San Diego gives up C.J. Abrams, James Wood, who's 6'7", drove in 5 yesterday, third game in the big leagues, and Mackenzie Gore for Soto. And Washington just crushes St. Louis yesterday.
Yeah, boy, this James Wood is really left. I think he's 6'5", lefty hitter. Last night he goes 2 for 5 with 5 ribbies. Hit his first big league homer. Got his first RBI the previous night. But he's a left-handed hitter. He just looks like a threat up there. And it didn't take him long to get comfortable, did it? I mean, considering all the talk about him coming up, you can see him coming if you're a Nats fan for months, and he shows up, and I don't know why he wouldn't be a really good player for them.
Oh, he's going to be a star, and I love the trade. Now, Lance Lynn pitches yesterday. He gave up 3 homers yesterday. Second time he's done that this year. I saw him give up 4 in a row in the playoffs to Arizona.
Yeah, I think the Dodgers are glad that at least he's not in that rotation mix.
Really? Come on. 3 homers yesterday. All right.
Yeah.
Washington throws that kid DJ Hertz today. He's the one, no walks, 10 strikeouts. He's done that a few times.
Okay, I'm not familiar with him, but
yeah, the lefty.
The great thing about ball is that all of a sudden you got James Wood and a guy named John Kenzie, and the Giants are doing it too. With Birdsong and Bibbins, and it's such a great never-ending drama.
Yeah, and the other thing on the Giants, and I thought of it yesterday, there's some young players of the Giants playing in the big leagues. Ramos is 24, but Harrison's 22. Birdsong is 22. Matos is 22. And these guys are going to play.
Yeah, Bailey. I'm not sure how old Bailey is, but the way Bailey showed up and was almost instantly, once he got to playing regularly, people were talking about, geez, this guy, he reminds me of Molina back there. He's in such command of the catching position, and Webbs is still a fairly young guy who showed up and was really good. So I mean, the people knock the Giants player development, but there's an awful lot of talent there, and a lot of it is produced, and a lot of it you don't know yet, but there's hope for them becoming really consistent good ball players.
Yeah, and I agree with you on the Yastrzemski Slater thing. Now, that is a spot that they
That's
can upgrade.
Go, man.
Yeah, they have to upgrade. I'll tell you the name that I love, and I think they need another arm in the bullpen. Luke Jackson is not doing it for me. And I think when I saw Gaddis come in and Clase come in, it was not Barlow throwing curveballs.
Right.
These guys came in and they 98 to 100, and you need that in the 8th inning. I'd like to see Bednar from Pittsburgh. He's out now with an oblique and he's coming back. But boy, I'd like to see them get him from Pittsburgh, because Pittsburgh is in it, but they're not in it really.
Right.
And I think. I'd love to see him in the 8th inning for the Giants.
Well, that's a pretty good call. I mean, if the Pirates traded Bednar, I don't think their fan base would stage a riot.
No.
I mean, they're all about O'Neill, Cruz, and Reynolds, and they hit the heck out of the ball. They're a super fun team, and Skeens, for heaven's sake. Luke Jackson is. he's kind of really the one vulnerable guy in the bullpen, and sure enough, he gives up a booming home run, which cost him. But a lefty would be the best. I mean, they've got a lot of right-handed talent, and excuse me, Taylor Rogers is very good, but I think another lefty would be good.
Well, I agree with that. That's why they went out and got this Colton Ingram, who's been with 6 teams in the last year. But yes, and Wisenhunt had another good game last night. Maybe they'll do something. I think they know it. They need a hitter, and they need a couple of bullpen pieces, and then they can do. And with all the starters coming back, they can do some damage here. So we'll see over the next few weeks. A couple of things I want to talk about. I've had it on my list for the last couple of weeks. I didn't mention it. The passing of a couple of sports writers from the L.A. area. One was T.J. Simers, and the other one was Mike Downey. You knew both of them, didn't you, Bruce?
Oh, Mike Downey. He was an absolute gentleman. One of the nicest guys I ever met in the business. A great, great writer in Chicago. I think he made his name for himself, and he was a nationally known guy who was at the big events and wrote really, really well, elegantly, and was a sweetheart of a guy. T.J. Simers was a different kind of guy, equally well known, but he was outrageous. I mean, he would write outrageous columns, and usually he wasn't too far off, but he would just go after people. And you gotta go into the locker room if you're a regular sports writer out there, and if you take somebody apart, you got to show up and see what happens. And he'd go in there. He had the thickest skin, I think, of all time. And I don't know what happened to him. All of a sudden, he wasn't writing, and I guess he obviously wasn't feeling well lately. But he was a guy who, among all the L.A. Times columnists, you got to include him and those that really made a mark.
Yeah, I think he had some labor issues with the L.A. Times.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And then he got sick, and then that was it for him, and he passed recently. But I read him all the time. I thought he was, like you say, he was, not in the Jim Murray class, but a unique kind of writer. Very, unique. You never knew where he was going to go. And I like watching him before the game with the manager. And he would sit right next to the manager and immediately go after the manager. And that's just what he did. It was
why in
interesting.
heaven's name were you bunning there?
And he would say it just like that.
Yeah.
I loved it. All right, so I'm glad I can mention those two with you.
Sure.
We do have a good historical moment today from 1964. As I said yesterday, it's All-Star Game time. This one involves Willie Mays. Orlando, I think, is involved with it. It's a great moment. Shea Stadium, and the place is going crazy, and it's the 9th inning. Dick Raditz is in, the monster, for the American League, and the Giants are part of coming back in this one.
Yeah, well, the great thing about back then, here you are in the 9th inning, and the monster, who was really, he threw so hard, and he was a fearsome presence out there. Mays is still in the game, okay? Thank you. And he leads off with a walk, which I think he was relieved to walk, because I don't think he'd never seen much of Raditz. He's like, who the heck is this guy? But he leads off with a walk, and then Cepeda is in the game and singles. And Mays scores a tying run on a throwing error by Joe Pepitone. And it comes down to Johnny Callison.
Yeah.
And in those days, I mean, you had Mays and Clemente and Aaron, and Frank Robinson wasn't on the team because he hurt his wrist, but he also had guys, like Stargell, Billy Williams, and Kurt Flood, Vada Pinson, and Johnny Callison was one of those guys. He hit 31 homers that year, 104 ribbies. The Phillies came in; they had him and Richie Allen, and so it comes down to Johnny Callison, who had come into the game as a pinch hitter, and he was going to come out for Hank Aaron. Hank Aaron wasn't feeling well, and Callison stayed in the game in right field, so he was able to do this, to hit this 3-run walk-off homer at Shea Stadium. I mean, little did Willie Mays know he'd be playing there for the Mets many years later. But, a great moment. And the best part about it is that the 9th inning came along, and you'd heard of everybody, and they were legendary.
Yeah, it was a great game. And I talked to Willie about it, and Willie told me just what you said. Walter Alston said, all right, Willie, lead off. You get on. And Willie said in his high-pitched voice, said, I can't hit the guy. I can't hit this guy. And you know how Willie said it. And he goes up there and gets the walk. And then Orlando told me, and he blooped one, I think, to right, just to get on, and then things started happening. And I remember this game. I hate to tell you, I do remember it. And in my mind, I can still see Johnny Callison crossing home plate.
Yeah,
that's how exciting that All-Star game was. I miss that for the All-Star game. I really do. I don't know. I realize it's a different world today, and everyone wants, the red carpet and all this stuff. But, boy, when you put those teams out against each other for 9 innings and they really wanted to win, it was like, I guess the World Baseball Classic is the only thing that comes close to it.
Well, another great thing is that more often than not, especially way back, each team would have three pitchers. You'd have 3 guys going 3 innings each, and you got a little look at them. And it's not like, geez, every inning is a new guy and we haven't seen him, and it's 2-1 in the 9th, and nothing really has happened. It's just too much pitching. But Marshall was there too for the Giants, and Jim Ray Hart was in the middle of a great rookie year, but he and Richie Allen both, but neither one of them made the team because of Ken Boyer and Ron Santo. It was just great days for the National League.
Yep, the best ever. That's the best decade ever in my mind.
Yeah, I think so too.
For National League ball. All right, well, boy, good to talk to you. Thanks for being up early, Bruce. I appreciate it.
Oh, you bet, Marty. We'll talk next week.
Yeah, next week, Giants in Minnesota, so we get to see Mr. Miranda. And he's probably got a picture of Walt Dropo in his locker now.
I'm reading the Walt Dropo's biography right now. I Wasn't Too Bad, I think it's called.
I met him. I met Walt Dropo. I met him in Cooperstown. He was there signing autographs or something like that. Nice man. Yeah, very nice man, Walt Dropo. And Miranda tied the record, 12 consecutive hits. And,
he comes in with 10 and he gets 2 right away. I mean, geez, this guy's serious. Yeah.
Really. So we get to see him next week, and that'll be good. All right, have a good Sunday. Thanks, Bruce.
Marty.
All right, what a pleasure. What a gift, Bruce Jenkins. The Life and Legacy of Baseball Executive Harry Dalton, I'll hold it up on the stream, written by Lee Kluck. This is a good one. About a very, very important man in baseball, Harry Dalton, and how he built 3 organizations. So we'll hear from Lee Kluck when we come back right after this.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Fans, when I came up for Fan Fest, I had a great time, and the reason why, I stayed at the most unique hotel in San Francisco, and that is the Hotel Via. Located directly across the street from Oracle Park, it's just a walk from the Via Hotel right into the ballpark. I loved it. It's family owned and operated. It was the first hotel built in the fastest growing area of San Francisco. And of course, we're talking about Mission Bay in the South Beach neighborhood. It's got premier private event space. The rooftop at the Via Hotel is a great place to have a meeting, an event, and just a beautiful view of the ballpark in downtown San Francisco. It's at the intersection of sports, entertainment, and technology. For more information, visit hotelviasf.com or call 415-200-4977. Or you can email them at info@hotelviasf.com. Staying at the Hotel Via is an experience you don't want to miss. Everyone likes a party, but everyone loves a party at Original Joe's. With 3 private dining rooms, it's the perfect spot to hold your next big event. From christenings to corporate gatherings, we'll make your next party San Francisco special. Original Joe's, see you at the counter.
Orange and Black family, the godfather of Giants baseball now continues. This is Talkin' Baseball with Marty Laurie on KNBR, the sports leader.
Fans, it's great to have you back with us as we get ready for Giants baseball. We're joined by an author. His name is Lee C. Kluck, K-L-U-C-K. He's a sports historian from Wisconsin. He's a frequent contributor to SABR, the Society for American Baseball Research, and believe it or not, this is his first book, and it's a good one. The Life and Legacy of Baseball Executive Harry Dalton. Leave while the party's good. That's a heck of a title. Harry Dalton, a very, very famous baseball executive, and he gets his due in this book written by Lee Kluck. Lee, a pleasure to have you with us. How are you?
Real good, Marty. It's a pleasure to be with you and your listenership. So, like I said, I love talking Dalton gang with just about anybody I can. So it's nice to be talking to the folks in the Bay Area for sure.
Well, it's interesting. Harry Dalton is one of those excellent, great baseball executives. And all of a sudden, we have a lot of books coming out about baseball executives, whether we go back to George Weiss or Ed Barrow or Theo Epstein and people like that, Larry Lucchino. But it's sort of popular now to see a book like this, but we don't see any about Harry Dalton. And when I think of Harry Dalton, I think of Dave Dombrowski, Brian Sabian, that kind of baseball executive. And this is the first one I've seen on Harry Dalton. Why did it perk your interest? What about it?
Well, Harry spent the back portion of his career. He was a general manager for 3 teams, Baltimore, California, and Milwaukee. And he spent the back portion of his career in Milwaukee. And it coincided with the birth of my fandom. I am not quite old enough to remember the 82 Harvey's wall banger teams for those who are familiar with the Milwaukee Brewers. But the next set of players that still included Robin Yount and Paul Molitor and Jim Gantner, but the mid-'80s to early '90s teams that he put together. And the one day that I was sitting there, you sort of remember things from your younger days and you go, well, were they as good as I thought, or were they just good because I had the lens that they were good? And you go back and you say, in a really tough American League East, because there were only 2 divisions at that time, in a really tough American League East, Milwaukee was always in about 3rd place or better and always seemed to be right on the cusp of maybe making a playoff. They would win, 85, 87, 89, 90 games a year. But when I looked at it, I said, well, okay, they were as good as I remember. And the one thing that I could take away from it was they were largely good because Harry Dalton and the people around him knew their jobs better than anyone.
Well, let's talk about Harry Dalton, because I remember him as a general manager, executive with the Orioles in '66, in that period
Absolutely.
of time. And he was instrumental in bringing Frank Robinson to the Orioles. But let's go back into the background of Harry Dalton. As we know, he was engineered the great Frank Robinson trade that made the Orioles in the mid-'60s. He was a general manager of the Angels, that he brought in Joe Rudy and Bobby Grich and Don Baylor, traded for Nolan Ryan with the Angels. He was a very aggressive general manager, baseball executive, took opinions from everybody, and then he was the final word. And then, as you said, put together this Brewers franchise, with George Bamberger and Harvey Keene and the Wall Bangers, and put them together and finally got the piece he needed in Raleigh Fingers for the bullpen, and all of a sudden the Brewers win the pennant, and they're playing the Cardinals in 1982. Let's go back into Harry Dalton. That makes this book interesting, because what I like about the book, you go into a lot of detail about what was going on with these clubs at that time and some of the controversy around Harry Dalton. Let's go back to Harry Dalton, the man, and how he put these teams together and why he's such an interesting subject for this period of baseball history.
The first thing is Harry was born and raised in Western Massachusetts. He is from West Springfield. He was not a good athlete. He, even as a kid, helped manage sandlot teams in the area because he was not a good player, but he was a great behind-the-scenes guy. And he went to Amherst, got a degree in English with sort of worked in newspapers and worked in public relations and ultimately took a job as a newspaper reporter for a paper in Springfield, Massachusetts. And then the Korean War happened, and even as a young adult, he was a very staunch believer in the American sort of, Pax Americana, the American century, and very ardent sort of anti-communist in his writings and a belief in America. And so he joined the Air Force and was smart enough, even though he had been to college, he had enlisted, he became an officer, wrote PR in Korea during the war, in South Korea and in Japan. And while he was in the Air Force, his parents moved to Baltimore. And Harry was a really interesting guy from the standpoint that Harry was just really smart. And he wanted to work in PR because he had been a journalist and he kind of knew where that was and how that worked. And so he wanted to work in PR. And he went in to the Orioles office in the winter of '53 because his parents, again, had moved to Baltimore. And he went in the office and he interviewed with the head of the PR department. The head of the PR department, Dick Armstrong, looked at him and said, "I don't need an assistant. But our farm director is a guy by the name of Jim McLaughlin, and he needs an assistant. Why don't you go talk to him?" And Jim McLaughlin hired Harry on the spot.
And that's how it started. He has a career that goes over 40 years. If you had to compare him today to a general manager today, the way he approached baseball, do you have some people in mind?
If Harry Dalton came in today, he would be Theo Epstein at his height with Boston and Chicago, your Ben Sherringtons, your if you think the younger generation, and you guys have a really young GM in San Francisco, you look and go, that would be Harry Dalton. And he's very smart, he's very cerebral, and he takes in a lot of information. He does his teams were some of the first ones to really look at an analytical approach to a lineup. Now, it's not as in-depth as it is today, right, with percentages and shifts and all these other things, but it was, hey, this guy plays better against these pitchers. We're going to play him.
That's what Earl Weaver did with the Cards.
Yep.
That's part of Harry Dalton there with the Orioles. Yeah, Lee Kluck is with us, the life and legacy of a baseball executive. It's Harry Dalton. He was kind of a deep thinker of baseball. He had a lot of opinions on expansion, scheduling, relations between the NCAA and Major League Baseball, the draft that came about, of course, when in 1965 with Rick Monday, the first pick. All that was part of Harry Dalton's legacy.
What it was is, I think what people came to find out, and Harry never really broadcast to people that he felt he was anything special. He was very sedate. He was very reserved. He didn't like to blow his own horn, but he was extremely smart. He was actually a member of Mensa, the High IQ Association. And when I interviewed Bud Selig about Harry and his time in Milwaukee and all these different things, he said, whenever we, meaning the owners, had a question about how they should proceed about some sort of mechanic in baseball, when they were considering a change, one of the first people they called and talked to was Harry Dalton. So in the 60s, for instance, they were talking about shortening the schedule because players felt that with air travel and everything, they were playing too much. And there were more doubleheaders back then. And, Harry came up with a plan. Now, the plan fell on deaf ears because it ultimately would have taken money out of the pockets of the owners, and it kind of fell on deaf ears. But he thought up a plan that would have worked. Another thing, he really believed that college baseball and Major League Baseball needed to have closer ties so that when they worked with each other from a development standpoint, you got players that were better adjusted for the pro game. You know, there were a whole series of things that he worked at and looked at. And I think the thing that is really impressive with me with Harry is in conducting over 65, 70 interviews with people and range of ages and range of players and executives and everyone else, I never found anyone that had a bad word to say. They looked and they said, Harry was just a good guy.
You know what I like about the book? It's how he approached baseball. I mean, if he got the job as general manager of the Angels, he had to get a manager. He chose Del Rice. It didn't work after 1 year. Goodbye, Del Rice. If he had Bobby Winkles, that didn't work. Goodbye, Bobby Winkles. And plus his trades of trading a very popular Jim Fregosi for Nolan Ryan, who hadn't made it at that point. There was controversy about bringing Frank Robinson into Baltimore, that he was an old 31, and should they give up Milt Pappas? But he pulled the trigger on that one.
So the interesting thing about the Robinson thing, and I will just stop you real quick, is that most of the work was actually done by Lee MacPhail. And Lee MacPhail, who went on to work for the commissioner's office and then the Yankees and was later the president of the American League, was the GM in Baltimore. And he said, okay, Harry, I'm leaving. You're getting the job, and the first thing you're going to do is accept this trade. And he hands him a piece of paper, and it says Frank Robinson for Milt Pappas, Jack Balchin, and Dick Simpson. And he goes, that's it. That's my parting gift to you. It's all done. All you got to do is call Cincinnati and get it done. And Harry always laughed. He goes, Harry said he almost screwed it up because he felt that 3-for-1 people would think he got fleeced. So he went and tried to get a minor league pitcher out of Cincinnati and almost blew the deal. But Harry did. He had a shrewd eye of making trades and looking at different things. And he also had a philosophy that just because I trade for a guy, a player, doesn't mean that I'm locked in to him long term. If it doesn't work, I'm not going to play a guy just so that I don't look bad because I traded for someone that doesn't work.
Yeah, I love it. That's the kind of general manager I like. And, if it's Norm Sherry that's got to be fired, he fires him. If he's got to bring in, as I say, Raleigh Fingers, some of the old Orioles, Don Baylor, and gets Bobby Gridge.
He brought in Milwaukee, and the trade deadline was later back then at the end of August. He brought in Don Sutton, who had been pitching in Houston.
But he pitched a big game in 1982, beating Jim Palmer with the help of Ben Ogilvie that won the division for the Brewers. Well, hey, a lot of fun to have you on. I'm glad you wrote this about Harry Dalton. He deserves it. He deserves that the accolades that the book gives him. Leave while the party's good. Lee C. Kluck, K-L-U-C-K, wrote it. It's out by Nebraska. And, of course, you can get it up at the Book Tree in Montclair. David has it up there. Lee, great having you on. It's fun to talk about a real icon of general managing. And the book really goes into the detail, the nuts and bolts of how he did this all the time. And that's a really good job by you. So I appreciate you being on. Thank you.
Thank you. And again, I think, the thing I will leave everybody with is I am not the only one of the opinion that Harry belongs in the Hall of Fame. And when people read that book, I think they will notice that when you do as much as he did during his career in terms of team building and also helping the game and furthering the prestige of the game of baseball, and through some very turbulent times with free agency and everything that went with it, he deserves a real honest assessment as to whether he belongs in Cooperstown. So thank you again, Marty, for having me on, and thank your listeners, and I hope they enjoy the book. So
it's a good one. It's a good baseball book. All right, more coming up. KNBR 680, 104.5, the sports leader.
Talking baseball with Marty Lurie on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
Fans, I'd love to talk about Georgie Brothers Furniture. They've been in the Bay Area for over 90 years. They have that 50,000 square foot showroom. It's got over 150 wonderful carpets, window coverings, and all sorts of furniture manufacturers. Well, the big news is stressless chairs. They make high-quality, comfortable furniture, sectional sofas, love seats, single reclining chairs, as well as the famous stressless chair, which I have, in my home. Now, there's a great sale going on. It goes on till August 5th, and it's called On the Spot Summer Savings. This is very exciting. You can receive an instant rebate for $100 for every $1,000 spent. So the 10% savings is really one of the best of the summer. Stressless furniture, I'm telling you, you have to try it. It's very, very healthy, very good for you. Check out Georgie Brothers Furniture. It's in South San Francisco, but look at them online. Georgie Brothers, GIORGIBROS.com. That's GIORGIBROS.com. Remember, tell them that Marty sent you.
Giants fans, there's no better way to set the game day table than talking baseball with Marty Lurie. Marty keeps rolling on KNBR, the sports leader.
All right, the lineups are out for today. It's Soler, Wade, Ramos, Bailey, Chapman, Conforto, Yastrzemski, Wisely, and Ahmed. And that's the lineup I like. Juan, Martinez, Ramirez, Naylor, Schneemann, Jimenez, Freeman, and Austin Hedges, and Rocchio. This Bo Naylor doesn't hit very good. The other Josh Naylor can hit. Bo Naylor doesn't hit. They finally found a guy who can hit worse than him, and that's Hedges. But they love Hedges in Cleveland. And he is a big deal in the clubhouse, and he's a very good catcher. So that's why he's in there today catching this Sunday. It is Carlos Carrasco and Hayden Birdsong today. That is the matchup. Now, tomorrow, do not forget, the memorial is tomorrow for Willie Mays. The gates open at 3 o'clock. It starts at 4, and there'll be celebration of the Willie Mays life, and people will speak about him, and it's open to the public, and you want to be there early, and it's going to be a very special time tomorrow. So absolutely, if you're around the ballpark, you make a special trip, you want to do that tomorrow. Other than that, baseball has been interesting. I think 90 games are down. The Giants have a good homestand coming up here. This is Toronto, and look, Snell's going to pitch Tuesday night. Then you come back with Logan Webb and then Hicks, and you're going to get a rotation now. This is a big deal. I was telling Raph, take a look at the September schedule. Arizona, San Diego, Milwaukee, San Diego, Baltimore, Kansas City, Arizona, and St. Louis. Every team is fighting to get in the playoffs. Giants are going to have to win some games, before September. This is not a picnic when they get to September, so they got to do some damage now. So we'll be back with you next Saturday live from 58 Social. We'll be out there at noon. Sandra G will be back with us, and we'll see Walter out there as well, I'm sure. So we got a good week of baseball coming up. It's Birdsong Carrasco today, so enjoy yourselves, and we'll catch up with you next week. Walter coming up right now with our Giants warm-up right here. KNBR 680, 104.5, the sports leader.
Seam heads, start cracking those peanuts and spitting those seeds, because gloves are soon to be popping.
He makes a headlong dive and makes the catch.
And bats are going to get cracking.
Blast one! Deep right field! Gone!
Welcome to KNBR's Giants warm-up.
Way back there! Goodbye!
On the sports leader.
What's up, Giants fans, and good morning. Gotta tone down the what's up. Don't want to wake up the neighbors. It's an early one here. Giants going for their fourth consecutive series win today in Cleveland. Yesterday didn't go to how the Giants planned it with Kyle Harrison, but the good thing is that he is back in the rotation. And as Marty said there at the end, Giants have a rotation now because they have Kyle Harrison yesterday, and they have Hayden Birdsong, who is going to be on the bump today for the Giants and trying to get that fourth series consecutive win. So they turned to the young guy, the 22-year-old. We were able to meet him out at the patio after his first start with John Lund and John Dickinson. We had him out on the patio, and he is a big guy. He is well, anybody's big to me because I'm sitting a whopping 5'7" on a good day. So anybody is taller than me. But Hayden Birdsong goes for the Giants. When he was out there on the patio, and we'll talk about yesterday's game here in a second. But when he was out there on the patio with John Lund and John Dickinson, they were talking to him, just his demeanor, very, very calm, very locked in at all times. So you just love to see that with someone of his age. And in this situation, I mean, you can see that the lights aren't too big for him. So that's huge. Goes out there and gets his first win last time out against the Atlanta Braves. And now a even taller task against the Cleveland Guardians today to try to get that fourth series consecutive win for the San Francisco Giants. But yeah, yesterday was all about Kyle Harrison. Kyle Harrison comes back from the IL after hurting his ankle prior to, I believe it was his start against the Angels a couple of weeks ago. Twisted his ankle in a workout. And he returns to the mound, and he wasn't sharp. He didn't look anywhere close to what he looked like prior to his injury, and that's a little anticipated, right? You can't just expect, and I guess that's the question is when you start looking at all these guys and the Giants and myself have been preaching once these guys get back, there is going to be a little bit of a settling in period. And I think that's what we saw with Kyle Harrison yesterday. Just didn't have command of his fastball, looked really erratic in that first inning. And that's ultimately all that the Guardians really needed to do. Giants did battle back. You like to see the fight in this offense, especially going down in a deficit 4-0 in the first two innings. In a month ago, maybe even further back than that, the Giants didn't really show a lot of fight when they would go down early in contests to where, the at-bats just didn't look good and all that. But that was not the story yesterday. Yesterday, the Giants fought back. They were within a run twice. Luke Jackson comes in, gives up a run. And that's a situation. I mean, when you look at the Giants bullpen has been, in my opinion, the bullpen has actually done their job. They're being overtaxed, right? The most innings that any bullpen has ever seen in not ever seen, but that any bullpen has had to this point in the regular season. I think they're above 9 full innings separate them from the next used bullpen, which is the Milwaukee Brewers. So you just Luke Jackson is probably the one blemish on the bullpen. Outside of that, I feel like this bullpen, this Giants team, has been pretty solid. When you look at that, especially that back end, I know that, Camilo Doval has had his ups and downs, but I believe in Camilo. I think that he'll be there more often than not. And, he just has to focus on locking in more often. But when you look at, Tyler Rogers, when you look at Ryan Walker, I mean, these guys are 1-2 in appearances in Major League Baseball, and they just continually go out there and throw zeros. So you love to see what you're getting out of the bullpen, but it all starts with the starters, right? And yesterday with Kyle Harrison, it was a hole from the beginning, 4 runs in that first 2 innings. Then he settled in for a little bit, but I do believe in Kyle Harrison when he does fully get back to himself. But that's the situation that the Giants are in, because they're banking on all of these guys coming back. We've talked about Kyle Harrison coming back for quite some time. And when they finally have a rotation, what that's going to look like. You talk about Blake Snell. Blake Snell will be back for the Giants to start that series against Toronto on Tuesday. And, just you love what you saw in Sacramento, but is that going to transfer over to what we can see on the Major League mound at Oracle Park? So again, there's going to be the growing pains, the settling in period, but the important thing is that the Giants rotation is starting to be put back together. And then you have Robbie Ray, who is going to be coming back, and Alex Cobb, who pitched, I believe he pitched on Friday in San Jose. You figure that he's going to factor into this rotation at some point as well. But Kyle Harrison, again, he struggled with the fastball command yesterday, and the Giants, they had that early deficit, but they had their chances. Like I said, they battled back. They got that double steal that I think Giants fans, we haven't seen a double steal in quite some time. That base running is kind of like a lost art in baseball, and huge heads up play by Matt Chapman, just being able to read the throw from the catcher. And I don't know what catcher was doing, throwing to second base in that situation. Kudos to Tyler Fitzgerald to force his hand to throw it. And maybe they just didn't think that Matt Chapman was going to challenge after a throw down to second base. But Matt Chapman was ready to go. He was itching, waiting for that ball to get thrown. And as soon as the move was made to second, he bolted to the plate and was able to scratch across that third run in that fifth inning. So that was huge. You like to see the base running ability of Matt Chapman. He's such a, when you look at this Giants team, and we're talking about all-stars all past couple of weekends, Matt Chapman, he doesn't have the numbers that will get him to the all-star game, but he is definitely a leader and an all-star on this Giants team. Just the heads-up play that he has, the bat-to-ball connection rate that he has, and his exit velocity, and then you throw together all of that with his defensive skills. That I know that he's had a couple of times where it hasn't looked pretty. He does have a lot of errors on the season, which is uncharacteristic of Matt Chapman. But all that aside, this guy is just the heart and soul, I think, of this Giants team. And it's really important that you have a veteran established in the league that comes in and takes the reins. Obviously, Logan Webb is the vocal leader for the team. I think Matt Chapman even is a vocal leader in that clubhouse as well. So just to have that pairing of those guys, and Logan Webb obviously has been part of this team since 2019, and he's that veteran presence. He's that leader in the clubhouse. But when you look at Matt Chapman and someone that leads by example, I think that you couldn't have asked for a better player to come in, especially with all these young guys that are learning the game and all of that. And just to see the interactions with him and Elliot Ramos It's just, you hope that knowledge, that baseball savvy is going to rub off on Elliot Ramos the more that he hangs around Matt Chapman. So, but going back to Kyle Harrison did return, right, and wasn't too good. And Bob Melvin was pretty much talking about yesterday in the post game. He was talking about the lack of command that Kyle Harrison did show in that first inning. He was able to get it together towards the back end of his outing, but only went 3 and 3/3 innings. Gave up the 4 runs, but there is something to look forward to his next outing as he starts to get a little more acclimated from coming back from the injured list. But this is Bo Mel talking about Harrison's lack of command post game yesterday.
With command, he's been out for a while, hadn't thrown in a game, and then, once he got into it a little bit, looks like he got better toward the end. 75 pitches is about what we were going with him today. So, finished it out. For a while there, it looked like I had to get somebody up in the first, as far as the pitches he threw. So, to be able to get through it and keep us there, and then we battled back really nicely and made it a game. Where at the beginning, it didn't feel like, we were up against it some, but, and the bullpen came in, only gave up 1 run. So, we had our chances offensively, but I think overall, Kyle will be much better command-wise next time out.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, he has struggled with the fastball command all season long, but I just think that was rust. That was a rust, and you have him going against one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, one of the best lineups out there. So not to make excuses for Kyle Harrison, but I do look forward to his next start. Looks like I believe it will be end of the Blue Jays series, if I'm counting correctly. Could be when they play the Twins actually on Friday. But when you look at Kyle Harrison, he's back. That's the biggest takeaway for me. And I hope that Giants fans can look at that, is that he is back. We are starting to see a Giants rotation. And with Blake Snell coming back, then you have Logan Webb, and then you have Jordan Hicks, and Hayden Birdsong was going today. And I think that Hayden Birdsong has actually pitched pretty damn good for being a 22-year-old, just being thrown into the fire. And he was one pitch away, Sia Suzuki, 1 pitch away from going 5 innings in his debut. Then he followed that up with going 5 innings against the Atlanta Braves in enemy territory. And he's just nails. He's locked in. The lights aren't too big for him. So I like the direction that this Giants team is going, especially with how they have gotten to this point. I know they lost yesterday, but they have won 8 of their last 12 games, and they've won 4 or 3 consecutive series. They're trying to go for their 4th consecutive series win today. So when you go back and look at those teams that they had played, and we were talking about it a couple of weeks ago, right before I think it was right before right after the Rickwood game that weekend when they were in St. Louis, and that was a huge week of games also when they were in Chicago, and Willie Mays passes away on that Tuesday, and they were in Chicago, and or I think it was Monday actually that he passed away. But anyway, they were in Chicago at Wrigley Field, and it was just a rough series for the Giants. They just weren't able to put together anything, any momentum, any offense. The pitching wasn't doing its job too well either. Then they go to Rickwood, and then they go to St. Louis. That whole stretch of games, and they were just continually playing bad ball, and it looked like it was going to unravel, because you start looking at the offense wasn't able to string together runs. The pitching staff was there wasn't one. You had the bullpen. You had the bullpen for that whole stretch of time, pretty much filling the gaps of the starting rotation, because everyone was out at that point. But then you look at what they've done since then. They had that 4-game series with the Chicago Cubs, and they won 3 out of 4. Then they had the Dodgers come in, and you start looking at those series as Cubs, Dodgers, Braves, and then now the Guardians. We're at this point. You figured that was going to be a really rough stretch for this team, especially with not having a starting rotation. But this Giants team, this Giants bullpen that They go out there and get 4 2/3 yesterday, which bumps up their overall total of innings pitched. I think it's over 376, I think is the number, 376 and a third on the year. So a lot of innings out of this bullpen, but it was necessary for this team. Obviously, they needed it with the rotation depth just being depleted, but they have weathered the storm. And my takeaway is Kyle Harrison coming back for the Giants. And you figure, yesterday it can only get better. It can only get better for Kyle Harrison. So his next time out, you would love to see that he has command of that fastball, and he could just kind of build on the early success that he had prior to his injury and go out there and get some innings for the Giants. But you have Kyle Harrison back. Blake Snell is going to be coming back on Tuesday. Then you start to see this rotation and what this team could potentially be. So that's my biggest takeaway. And the Giants offense didn't let up. They didn't let up. They continued to fight. They were able to scratch across 4 runs. And Michael Conforto just looking amazing right now. Elliot Ramos, he keeps doing what he's doing. By the way, Elliot Ramos, it might be announced later today that if he is going to be an all-star. I think the announcement is at either, I think it's 5 Eastern or 5 o'clock West Coast. I'll have to look that up. But Elliot Ramos, potentially all-star. We've been talking about that also. Who else is on the all-star team from the Giants? Your thoughts on the Giants moving forward? How did you take the return of Kyle Harrison? How do you see this Giants team performing down the stretch as we get to the All-Star break? And who are your Giants All-Stars? We'll continue that conversation on the other side, and we will continue to talk about this Giants team who goes for their 4th consecutive series win again against the Cleveland Guardians. And the same formula. It's been outside of the Cubs, but remember the Dodgers series. They won the first one, lost the second one, won the third one. You go to Atlanta, won the first one, lost the second one, and won the rubber match. So the Giants in another situation similar to that. Hopefully we get the same results. Game 3 in Cleveland, Giants. Hayden Birdsong is on the mound against Cookie Carrasco. Carlos Cookie Carrasco on the mound for the Guardians. We'll talk about that. All that and more on the other side. You are listening to the Giants Warm-Up Show on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader.
And the pitch, Fitzgerald goes, it's in the dirt, throw down to second, and now the throw is coming home, and it's safe at home. Chapman scores on the throw home. Over to third goes Fitzgerald. It's 4-3.
While Bob Melvin preps the men in orange and black, we'll prep you for today's ball game as our Giants warm-up continues on the Sports Leader.
All right, welcome back to the Giants warm-up show on KNBR, the Sports Leader. I'm your host, Walter Econ, taking you all the way up to first pitch, which is today, early one. We are live early, 10:40 in Cleveland, and the official pregame show will kick off at 9:40, and I believe we'll be talking with Dave Fleming. Dave Fleming on the broadcast, and it's going to be an interesting one, how the Giants are able to scratch across runs, because right there, you heard it with the double steal, improv double steal by Matt Chapman, just heads up play. Love seeing Matt Chapman, just his brilliance of playing baseball. And, you know, he is a leader for this team. And yeah, I was so confused when I saw the catcher throw down to second base trying to get Tyler Fitzgerald, and shout out to Tyler Fitzgerald. I know, I forget who it was on 4th of July was talking about Tyler Fitzgerald getting some starts, and he goes in there and gets that huge knock that knocks into 2. Then he forced the hand of the catcher, and Matt Chapman took full advantage of that, scored the 3rd. So that whole rally was all around Tyler Fitzgerald. And you know what? It might have been Mike in San Francisco. So let's go out to Mike in San Francisco. The phone lines are open. That's 415-808-KNBR, 415-808-5627. Tell me about your Giants All-Stars, or tell me how you're feeling about the Giants with Kyle Harrison and Blake Snell potentially coming back. But we have Mike in San Francisco. Mike, welcome back to the warm-up show. How you doing today, man?
Doing good as usual, Walter, and it's always nice to hear you and see you on there. Got a couple jokes for you today. We'll start off with my Dave voice from Alvin and the Chipmunks. Melvin! Simon Theodore.
Oh, we need more lungs out of that, Mike. Come on, you can do a better job. Take 2. Go.
I've got pipes, but I'm trying to play it down a little bit for your neighbors.
All good. Yeah, it's early morning. It's early morning, man. Don't want to wake up the neighbors.
Right. So we got and the Daryl chant. You know, Daryl Jackson. It's not as heartfelt, but
yeah.
What I do have for you today is I spent like the beginning part of the off season trying to figure out how to coach for the Giants, and the one guy that's going to be on with Lasky tonight is going to be Kenny Lofton, and he was the coach that I came around to. So I sent him like a 10-page essay on why I thought he should be the head coach of the Giants. And I just want to point out a couple notes and just bounce it off you, see what you might think of it, and take my answer off air.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Did you send this to Kenny, or did you send this to Lasky?
No, I actually sent it to Kenny on X. You know, obviously. Who knows.
Okay. All right. Perfect.
But I wanted to ask, since we'll be on the show tonight.
Sure. Yeah.
So, the modern age of baseball, pitch clock, bases are getting bigger. I mean, stolen bases are out there, right? And Kenny Lofton was one of the greatest at it. And we even got the chance to see that in Giants uniform. I thought that played well for our particular style brand of baseball. Also, the ballpark itself, the high winds and the way it knocks the ball down, being a line drive based club, you know, a team that focuses on contact hitting, which he was great at as well, was something that I thought he could get across to our players. So I won't have the opportunity to ask him, but hopefully he hears the show and answers tonight with Lasky or whenever they do their interview, and just says if he ever looked at what I sent him and if he ever even considered it, because I don't know, he was a great Giant, one of my favorite players all time. And I just wanted to put that out there.
No, Mike, I appreciate the call, man, and yeah, thank you for the thoughts for Kenny Lofton, dude. I love Kenny Lofton. That was pretty much the high point of my Giants fandom, right? Because I was born in '92, right? When you look at the years that Kenny Lofton came over and was the spark plug for the Giants to get to the World Series, I mean that was just ingrained in my brain. As he was one of the greatest. I was just like, wow, this guy's crazy. Like this is incredible. Like this guy is just fast and I just loved to see that. And actually, when I was young growing up, like I tried to steal bases because I saw Kenny Lofton and have that line drive swing and it's incredible. But yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point in that. I mean, yesterday, and I think we've had this conversation, not with you, Mike, but on the Giants warm-up in the past where Giants were the last team to record a stolen base in Major League Baseball. And there's a reason for that. I don't see that there are the guys on this roster that can be stolen base threats consistently, right? And it's not only about speed. You have to have good instincts. You have to have good reaction time. And it's not just about speed. I mean, you have to have a little bit of speed, but it's not all about speed because we see Matt Chapman. Matt Chapman is able to steal bases, not on a regular basis, but he can steal bases when the situation calls for it. But I mean, we have Tyler Fitzgerald, and if Mike is in the YouTube chat, I know he always is. I think Mike called earlier this week when we had our 4th of July edition of the show, and he was calling for Tyler Fitzgerald. If it wasn't Mike, I apologize, but I do believe someone did call in and talk about Tyler Fitzgerald. I want to say it was Mike, and he wanted him in there instead of Nick Ahmed, if I'm remembering correctly. But Tyler Fitzgerald is probably the one guy on this Giants roster that does have the speed to take bases at will. Now, that is just, I feel in today's day and age, I feel like stolen bases are a lost art that isn't preached by the coaches. So yeah, if you look at Kenny Lofton, maybe that could be a point of emphasis, right? If he was on a coaching staff. But you also, it's not only the coaches. You have to have the staff. You have to have the roster to be able to implement that type of strategy. I mean, go ahead and look at the Diamondbacks of last year. What were they doing? They were running crazy on every single team. Why? Because they had the roster that was able to do that. Now, I just don't know if the Giants have that type of player outside of Tyler Fitzgerald and Matt Chapman, who just has great baseball instincts. Because you look at yesterday, right? And Fitzgerald and Chapman coincidentally were on the base paths at the same time, and they had that double steal, and they were able to make magic happen, right? And maybe it's just as simple as that, to where you want to have guys moving to where you force the opposing team. I think that's the key there is you get guys moving on the base paths. Maybe it's not a straight steal. Maybe you're doing hits and runs and having that style of baseball, because what that does is you force either the second base or the shortstop, depending on the situation and depending on who's taking the ball. If there's a throw down to second, you have that situation to where they have to cover that base. So they're moving with the runner, and that just, it just messes with the defensive rhythm. It messes with the defensive timing. So in that theory, in getting more hits and runs, I would love to see that. I would love to see that because the double steal yesterday, again, it was improv. It wasn't a straight double steal, because you notice when you look at Matt Chapman, Tyler Fitzgerald takes off and he's going to take second. And, it's a situation to where you're forcing the catcher to make a decision. You're forcing the catcher to try to throw out the guy at second, or he eats it. And now you have two guys in scoring position, which, yesterday the Giants were only one for 13. So they needed all the guys that they could, but even when they had guys in scoring position, they weren't able to knock them around. But when the catcher committed to second base, Matt Chapman had he had his feet moving. He was ready. He was waiting for that opportunity. As soon as the decision was made that ball was going down to second base, Matt Chapman took off and he booked it for the plate, and he was able to make it. And the Giants made it a 1-run game. So when you look at the positives of what can happen when guys get on the base paths and are able to move on the base paths, I think that's what you're looking at. But straight stealing, this team just doesn't have it. This team just doesn't have the personnel to be able to throw out guys that can steal bases. It's just not that roster. Now, is that the type of player that teams are even scouting anymore? I think that, you'd be lucky if you find a guy that has decent speed that can hit home runs, because I feel like that is a point of emphasis in today's game. And I mean, maybe it changes. Maybe they're able to find some guys, because I remember back when I was watching games, and I sound old. I sound old back in my day. But when I was watching, thank you, Raph. But when I was watching Giants games, and when I was growing up, it seemed like there was a guy specific to that role that was a contact hitter, slap it on the ground, make a play, make the defense make a play, make them field it. But they're slapping it on the ground, they're slapping the ball around the infield, and they're booking it to first. That ball player, just the value of that ball player, I think, has diminished in today's game. And it, there's not as many guys that fit that mold anymore. And I just think that's because that in baseball today, it's not a huge point of emphasis. So, Mike, love the call, but dude, I do agree with that the Giants do need to get guys moving, and that can create holes, create separation from the defense, and it just makes things happen. I mean, we saw it yesterday, and we've seen it with Tyler Fitzgerald in the past also, when he was stealing bases and getting guys to move, getting second base and shortstop out of position. So we'll love to see if that is something that the Giants can do moving forward. The lineup really quick as the Giants try to get this game done. Jorge Soler hitting leadoff. Lamont Wade Jr. batting second. Elliot Ramos batting third. In there again. Patrick Bailey batting fourth. Matt Chapman batting fifth. Conforto batting sixth. Mike Yastrzemski batting seventh. Brett Wisely batting eighth. And Nick Ahmed batting ninth. Hayden Birdsong on the bump for the Giants as they try to get their fourth consecutive series win. And pregame show starts now on KNBR 104.5 and 680, the sports leader. All right, Walter Calceta back here for the Giants warm-up. Really quick before we get out to the Giants pregame show, we have a standings update sponsored by Alameda County Probation Department. Visit joinacpd.org today for a career that matters. We look to the wild card. The Giants dropped one yesterday, so they fall in that jumbled wild card standings race right now. You got the Braves in first in that wild card, the Padres and the Cardinals, but you have the Diamondbacks and Mets all ahead of the Giants, so it's going to be a really fun one this summer as we look to that wild card standings update, sponsored by Alameda County Probation Department.